Ladies and gentlemen, today I invite you to meet a man who challenged the universe itself, not with muscles, not with armies, but with questions. A man who looked into the darkest corners of existence and dared to ask, why? A man whose body gradually surrendered to gravity, but whose mind escaped it entirely. From an early age, he realized something that many never do. The universe does not reward strength alone, it rewards curiosity. While others accepted the world as it appeared, he refused. He wanted to know what happened before time began, what lies inside a black hole, and whether the universe had rules, or merely habits. These were not questions for comfort. These were questions that could make a person feel small, yet he embraced that smallness because he understood something powerful. Feeling small in a vast universe is not weakness, it is honesty. Then came the moment that should have ended everything. A diagnosis. A countdown. Doctors gave him years, then months, then expectations of silence and stillness. Most people would have accepted that verdict as a closing chapter, but he did not. He treated time not as an enemy, but as a challenge. If time was limited, then every thought mattered more. Every idea had to be sharper. Every moment had to count. As his physical voice faded, his intellectual voice grew louder. When walking became impossible, he traveled further than most humans ever will, across galaxies of thought, across the edges of space and time. When speaking became difficult, he spoke to the entire planet through ideas so powerful they reshaped how we understand reality itself. He taught us that black holes are not just cosmic monsters that swallow everything, but objects with secrets, temperature, and even a kind of life. He showed us that the universe is not chaos, but a story written in mathematics, waiting for brave minds to read it. And perhaps most importantly, he proved that intelligence is not about speed, perfection, or even physical ability. It is about persistence. But this was not just a scientific journey, it was a human one. Through humor, humility, and an unshakable sense of wonder, he reminded us that knowledge belongs to everyone, that the biggest ideas should not be locked away in ivory towers, but shared with the world. He believed that if we could understand the universe even a little, we might treat each other with more patience, more awe, and more responsibility. He never pretended to have all the answers. In fact, he celebrated uncertainty. He once made it clear that admitting ignorance is the first step toward wisdom. Because the universe does not fear our questions, it invites them. What makes his story extraordinary is not just what he discovered, but how he lived. In the face of unimaginable limitations, he chose imagination. In the presence of suffering, he chose curiosity. In a universe that offered no guarantees, he chose meaning. Ladies and gentlemen, his life delivers a message far greater than equations or theories. It tells us that no matter how confined your circumstances may feel, your mind can remain free. That no diagnosis, no failure, no fear has the authority to define the limits of your potential. The universe is vast, yes, but the human spirit, when fueled by curiosity and courage, can be just as expansive. So the next time life tells you to slow down, to accept less, to stop asking questions, remember this man who outsmarted the universe not by conquering it, but by understanding it. And remember that the greatest journeys do not require strong legs or loud voices. They require brave questions, relentless curiosity, and the refusal to give up on wonder. Thank you. Curiosity is more powerful than physical strength, because it is curiosity that allows a human being to move beyond the limits placed on the body, the environment, and even time itself. Physical strength can lift objects, win battles, or dominate space for a moment, but curiosity changes the direction of history. It is the quiet force that pushes a person to ask questions when others are satisfied with simple answers. While strength depends on energy that eventually fades, curiosity feeds on wonder, and wonder has no expiration date. A curious mind does not accept reality as fixed. It treats reality as something to be explored, challenged, and understood at deeper levels from the earliest moments of progress. It was never the strongest individuals who transformed the world, but the most inquisitive ones. Curiosity drives innovation because it refuses to settle. It asks why the sky behaves the way it does, why time moves forward, and what lies beyond what we can see. These questions cannot be answered with force. They require patience, imagination, and the courage to be wrong. Every major breakthrough, whether in science, philosophy, or technology, began with a single curious thought that someone was brave enough to pursue. Curiosity also has a unique power. It grows stronger when conditions grow weaker. When physical abilities are reduced, curiosity can become sharper, more focused, and more disciplined. It turns limitations into lenses, forcing the mind to work more efficiently, to think more deeply, and to value each idea. Where strength reacts, curiosity reflects. Where strength pushes, curiosity pulls the truth closer. This is why a curious person can continue to expand mentally even when the world seems to shrink around them. Most importantly, curiosity gives meaning to struggle. It transforms pain into purpose and difficulty into discovery. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" curiosity asks, "What can I learn from this?" That single shift changes everything. It replaces fear with fascination and despair. Determination. A curious mind does not surrender to darkness. It tries to understand it. And in understanding, it finds light. In the end, curiosity is not just a tool for learning, it is a way of living. It keeps the mind alive, alert, and connected to something larger than the self. Long after physical strength fades, curiosity continues to ask, to seek, and to reach. That is why it remains the most powerful force a human being can possess. A setback or diagnosis does not end a journey. It has the power to sharpen focus and turn time into the most valuable resource a person possesses. When life delivers unexpected limits, it often feels like a closing door, a final sentence written without permission. But in reality, such moments can strip life down to what truly matters. Distractions fall away, unnecessary noise fades, and priorities become painfully clear. When time is no longer assumed to be endless, every moment gains weight and every decision begins to matter more. Limits force clarity. When the future feels uncertain, the mind learns to concentrate on what can be done now rather than what might be lost later. Instead of wasting energy on regret or fear, attention shifts toward meaningful work, purposeful thinking, and intentional living. Time stops being something to spend carelessly and becomes something to invest wisely. Each hour is no longer just another passing unit. It becomes an opportunity to create, to think, and to contribute something lasting. A diagnosis or major setback can also awaken discipline. When energy is limited, it cannot be wasted. Focus becomes sharper, thoughts become more precise, and effort becomes more deliberate. The mind adapts by working smarter, not harder. This discipline often leads to deeper insights because it encourages reflection rather than rush. Instead of chasing countless directions, attention is narrowed toward questions and goals that truly matter. Most importantly, such moments redefine success. Success is no longer measured by speed, comfort, or physical achievement, but by impact and meaning. The question changes from "how much can I do?" to "what truly deserves my time?" In that shift, life becomes richer, not smaller. What initially appears as an ending quietly becomes a transformation, one that turns limited time into a source of urgency, purpose, and extraordinary focus. True intelligence is persistence, the ability to continue thinking, learning, and imagining even when the body can no longer keep up. Intelligence is often misunderstood as quick thinking, flawless memory, or physical ease in action, but its deeper form is revealed when conditions are difficult. Persistence is what allows the mind to remain active when movement slows, when speech becomes effort, and when the world assumes progress must stop. A persistent mind refuses to surrender simply because the path is narrowed. When the body faces limits, persistence transforms thought into the primary tool of progress. It demands patience, forcing ideas to be refined rather than rushed. Each concept is examined carefully, tested mentally, and strengthened through repetition. This slow, deliberate process often leads to deeper understanding than speed ever could. Persistence is not loud or dramatic. It works quietly, returning to the same problem again and again until clarity appears. Learning, under persistence, becomes an act of defiance. It is the refusal to let circumstances decide intellectual worth. Even when energy fades, curiosity remains awake, constantly searching for patterns, meaning, and truth. Imagination thrives in this space, building worlds and possibilities unrestricted by physical motion. In this way, persistence proves that intelligence is not measured by ease or ability, but by endurance, the willingness to keep going, thinking, and questioning long after others would have stopped. The universe is not chaos, but a story waiting to be understood, and brave minds are the ones willing to read it. At first glance, existence appears random, stars scattered without pattern, time moving forward without explanation, events unfolding without warning. Yet beneath that apparent disorder lies structure, balance, and law. The universe follows rules that are subtle, elegant, and precise, and understanding them requires patience, humility, and courage. It takes bravery to believe that meaning exists where others see only randomness. To read this story, one must accept uncertainty. The universe, does not reveal its secrets easily, and it often challenges assumptions that feel comfortable or familiar. Brave minds are willing to be wrong, willing to question ideas that once felt certain, and willing to stand alone while searching for deeper truth. This courage separates observers from explorers. Observers accept what they see, explorers ask what lies beneath. Understanding the universe is not about control, but connection. Each discovery links humanity more closely to the cosmos, showing that we are not separate from it, but a part of its unfolding narrative. Every equation, theory, and insight becomes a sentence in a much larger story, one that stretches across time and space. Those who dare to read this story expand not only knowledge, but perspective, reminding us that wonder is not ignorance, but the beginning of wisdom. Knowledge gains its greatest power when it is shared, simplified, and used to inspire others rather than to impress them. True understanding is not proven by complexity or exclusivity, but by clarity. When ideas are locked behind difficult language or guarded by ego, they lose their ability to change lives. Knowledge that remains isolated may satisfy personal pride, but knowledge that is shared has the power to shape generations. Simplifying an idea does not weaken it. It strengthens it by making it accessible and meaningful. Sharing knowledge is an act of humility. It requires setting aside the desire to appear superior and choosing instead to serve understanding. When complex ideas are explained in simple terms, they invite curiosity rather than intimidation. They tell others, you belong in this conversation. This openness transforms learning from a privilege into a collective journey, where everyone has the opportunity to explore, question, and grow. Inspiration is the true measure of valuable knowledge. Facts alone inform, but inspiration motivates. When knowledge is presented with passion and purpose, it encourages others to think deeper, ask better questions, and imagine beyond their current limits. It lights a spark that continues long after the explanation ends. Many people may never become experts, but they may become curious, and curiosity is where all progress begins. Knowledge also carries responsibility. When shared wisely, it can empower people to make better decisions, see the world more clearly, and approach problems with insight rather than fear. The greatest thinkers understand that their legacy is not what they know, but what they awaken in others. In that sense, knowledge reaches its highest value not when it elevates one individual, but when it lifts many minds at once. No matter how restricted circumstances may feel, the human mind can remain free, curious, and capable of infinite reach. External limitations often create the illusion that possibility has ended, but the mind does not obey the same boundaries as the body or the environment. Thought can travel where movement cannot, explore where access is denied, and imagine futures that have not yet arrived. Even in confinement, the mind can expand, creating space where none seems to exist. Freedom of thought begins with curiosity. Curiosity refuses to accept confinement as final, and instead searches for meaning within it. It asks questions, forms ideas, and builds inner worlds untouched by physical restriction. This inner freedom becomes a source of strength, allowing a person to remain mentally alive even when circumstances attempt to shrink their existence. The more limited the outside world becomes, the more powerful imagination can grow. The mind's reach is not measured by distance, but by depth. Through reflection, learning, and imagination, it can engage with ideas that span centuries and galaxies. Books, theories, memories, and questions become pathways to endless exploration. In this way, the mind proves itself to be the ultimate form of freedom, one that cannot be taken, confined, or controlled. By choosing curiosity over resignation, a person preserves their inner vastness, showing that true limitation exists not in circumstances, but only when the mind stops reaching beyond them.